howdy. Just give me a second to get everything set up here, guys. Crap. Losing it. Just give me 1 second to get these cameras set up, guys. Oh, yeah, that's good enough. Working. All right. What are we going to do here? What are we going to do? Let's see here. see who's on here. Happy New Year, everybody. Michael here again from GuitarGate.com, and thanks for tuning in, guys. Good, we got some people on here. So I wanted to come on here and right off the bat, just tell everybody thank you so much for all your support in 2017. It was insane. It was absolutely crazy. Went through a very long period of revamping the GuitarGate.com website after a lot of your feedback. And we launched in like late summer, early September. And, it took a couple months to get all the bugs figured out, get all the kinks kind of settled in, and get it working correctly. But you guys stuck with me there. And, we had... I didn't know how well it was going to be received. This is the project of my life. This is all that I do, and we went from literally launch, I think, on the first day of September, to now we have over 3,000 students that are weekly subscribers, monthly subscribers to the GuitarGate.com website. And tens of thousands of students that have logged on and made an account and that are students in the free section of the site. So that's tremendous. That has happened in just a 3 or 4 month period. And I really just want to take this time to thank you guys for all your support. And it just means the world to me that I can help you and that I actually do help you and that you enjoy taking lessons and learning from me. It is really the joy of my life, and I genuinely, sincerely appreciate it. So now that's, we've gotten that out of the way, I'd really like to hear whatever you guys have going on as far as what your guitar goals are for 2018, any new gear that you might have gotten, any new stuff that you might have going on that you'd like to share. And then just kind of open it up as like a straight up ask me anything. We can go as long as you want. It can be guitar related, not guitar related, anything that you want at all. So again, thank you guys so much for all your support. I sincerely appreciate it. And for all you subscribers that are watching to the website, tonight at 10 p.m. we're going to be going over 6/8 rhythms, which is like, your basic ballad stuff, which is super, super cool. So tune in for that if you have time. And I will look up here and see who is commenting, who's asking questions, and let's see what we can get into here. Yes, Lonnie, thank you so much. Bob, good to see you. Chris, Happy New Year. Paul, how's it going? Marcus, how's it going? Carlos, Michael, Bob, Ken, good to see all you guys. I really appreciate it. All right, let's go through some questions here. Now, for you guys watching on Facebook and YouTube, I have 2 streams going. So I'm going to kind of go back and forth. So let's see here. So Paul Lilly asks, I need to establish a real practice routine that does not feel like practice. Any advice? Yeah. So, Paul, here's the deal with that. You have to focus on whatever you need to work on. Whatever you're not good at, whatever you're struggling with, you obviously can't ignore that, right? It's very easy for us to just get in a routine where we pick up the guitar and, we play all the stuff that we're great and we're comfortable with, right? It's the same thing in bands. It's so easy to just over and over again play all the songs that you have kind of on rapid fire, your muscle memory, play the same leads the same way and not think about it too much. But we all know the stuff that we're kind of avoiding. So, you have to take priority, take stock of what are your short-term goals, what are your midterm goals, and what are your long-term goals. So, for example, short-term goal would be, I need to learn this song, right, for this thing. A midterm goal would be something like, I need to feel more comfortable mixing my major and minor pentatonic scales. A long-term goal would be, I want to be able to, improvise you know, from this side, you know, all the way down here to all the way up here. You know what I mean? And feel like I have control over the neck. Those are some different types of goals. So one, take real stock of where you are, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, and what are your specific goals. And then two, and this is the part you're really referring to, is how do you make it feel like it's not some boring practice routine? How do you make it interesting, right? How do you, because no one picked up the guitar to just practice all the time and not have any fun. And you have to put things in context. So that means learn songs where you can utilize the stuff that you're working on. Challenge yourself. So for example, if you're trying to get, if one of your goals is, improvisation, right? Blues improvisation. You can learn all the scales first that you want, right? Like start with minor pentatonic or the blues scale, right? Learn them, but just like one pattern. And then start practicing over a blues track, right? Where you're trying to put that stuff in context and try to make music with it. So do like 50% where you're just practicing the scale and then application. And then come back, learn a different pattern, and then try soloing with just that pattern. You see what I mean? You gotta put things in context. Like when you're working on theory, for example, and you're like, okay, I'm trying to work this progression, or what scale goes with this, or I'm trying to write a song and I have these two chords and what works together, right? You can kind of figure it out on paper and get a good idea of what works and what doesn't, but then you have to put it down and you got to get the guitar in your hands and you have to actually try to put it together. And you might find that what you thought would work didn't, or that exactly what you wrote down is exactly what you heard in your ear. But the point of what I'm trying to say is, you have to not lose that balance of like why you picked the guitar up in the first place, which is to have fun, because it's fun to play, and focusing on things that you've been ignoring. It's that constant thing. And the way that you bridge that gap is, whatever your goals are, short-term, mid-term, long-term goals, as far as stuff that you need to do to become a better player, try to match that with things that'll put those things in context, right? Like if you're trying to learn basic beginner jazz stuff, right? You would, yes, learn your seventh chords. You do some study on, basic 2-5-1 progressions, etc. But then you have to give yourself a couple tunes that you want to try to work out and make it through. And you start with easy stuff. And you start with stuff that you like to listen to and that's fun. And that's what you do for each department of wherever you're trying to improve, whether it's, again, soloing, rhythm guitar, songwriting, whatever it is. That's pretty much the secret. And besides that, the main thing to do, and you guys know me, that this is like gospel to me. This is like what I preach. It's just keep the thing in your hands. So whatever you decide to do, whatever you decide to work on, just do it often. It doesn't have to be for a long amount of time, right? It is about repetition, not duration. I cannot stress that enough. And this is true with anything you try to get good at in life. The more times you do something is much more valuable than the amount of time that you do that thing. So even 15 minutes a day is better than an hour every other day. It's the constant picking it up and working on things that you need to work on. It is the everyday picking it up, even for 10 minutes before you go to sleep, trying to get better at something, one specific thing. If you do that, you'll reach whatever short and midterm goals that you set for yourself. So let's see what else we have up here. Man, we got all kinds of stuff. I love seeing this. Frankie, how's it going, man? Good to see you. Lonnie asks, is there a good place to find tracks to practice with along the same thing? And yes, Paul, incorporating a loop pedal. Everybody out there should own a loop pedal, um, because it's one thing to play along with tracks or with a band, something where you're not playing the rhythm. But since all of us play both rhythm and lead, um, then it's pretty much imperative that you work on playing rhythm and lead with yourself, because if you go to do a track, like a rhythm track, right, and you set a loop down and you go to take a lead over it, you might realize that, oh man, that's way too busy, or the feel just isn't right with that, and you can adjust, right? You can become a better rhythm player by figuring out that your leads don't work over your rhythm, and so on and so forth. So everybody should own a loop pedal. But onto Lonnie's question about, is there a good place to find tracks to practice with? Yes, I think, in my opinion, the person that does the best is Quist. So if you go to Quist Jam, you can Google it. You can go into YouTube, and I'm trying to get. I know it's taking a while, guys. Had some real issues at my house with the fire, and all kinds of crazy stuff, and that this course just got pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. I'm trying to get it out before I go to NAMM, but it features all jam tracks from Quist. I'm super pumped about it, and I really think his stuff is just really good and really sharp. So even if it's not on one of my courses, go check out his YouTube channel, check out his website. His stuff is good. His stuff is great. He's got it in every genre, slow tempos, medium tempos, fast tempos, all kinds of good stuff. I can't recommend it enough. All right, Marcus asks, you have real issues when trying to fast pick. My picking hand is great, but syncing not so great on my left hand. Any advice? Marcus, you're in for a treat today, because, or I should say, you're lucky. This is an easy problem to fix, but unfortunately, it's going to require some discipline on your part, also known as using the metronome. Playing fast, playing quickly, at speed, when you encounter issues where your right hand and your left hand don't sync up, it's because you haven't fine-tuned that muscle memory at a slower speed. That is literally it. There is nothing else to really figure out, and trying to muscle through it at a fast pace is only going to lead to sloppy playing, that you're kind of just pushing your fingers around the neck, which, of course, there's a time and a place for that. But if you want to solve that, it is very simple. You want to put on a metronome, pick a scale, pick a sequence, but something that takes a fair amount of time. It can be as simple as an exercise, such as, to more complicated exercises like, sorry. String skipping, whatever. It doesn't have to be just scales, because all you're trying to do is connect these two. So it really doesn't matter what you're working on, as long as you're using every finger, every digit, right? The trick is, start at 80, right? Something very slow, where it's like, like that slow. And what you want to do is you want to hold down with your left hand, with your fretting hand, for as long as possible. In other words, we're not doing staccato. You want the note to ring out for as long as possible. And what that's going to do is it's going to increase that strength, right, for each finger, right? It's going to make it so, that finger is exerting all the strength it needs to let the note ring out for the whole length of your picking attack. That's the point here. Because yes, of course you can play staccato, but what you're really talking about at speed, because you're going so fast, is that the note never gets a chance to really ring out, because it's just choked, because this can't keep up with this. So the way to do that is to make your squeeze in your left hand the identical length as the pick length, right? As how long you want it to ring out, if that makes sense. So let it ring out as long as possible, and alternate pick. down, up, down, up, down, up. Don't break that. And you want to take it all the way from your nut to 12 at least at 80. And you want to get it perfect. And you do it 3 or 4 times, right? And it's going to be absolutely mind-numbing, right? Just that might even be 60, right? But slow. But you want to make it so you can get it perfect and that every note rings out for the same duration and you don't lose your beat when you switch strings. That's crucial. So when you get to right? And don't forget to work on your vibrato when you do that too. Make it shake a little bit, right? Work your hands in there. And so you get that down. You say, okay, that's just unreasonably slow. It's perfect. Then you want to jump up to 100. Don't jump up to 100. Jump up to 82. Right? See where this is going? Then you do that for a day or two. Then you jump up to 84, or 86. And so you basically give yourself a goal. Say, okay, 1 month from now, I want to be blistering at 140, right? And you just work your way backwards. You just work your way backwards, and you say, okay, I'm going to bump it up 2 beats a minute every other day, right? So that gets me from this place to that place by this time. And you'll know if you go too quickly because you'll start experiencing the same thing you're experiencing now as then. The trick is to not make jumps that you can notice with your ear, right? The jump from 80 to 82 is not very noticeable with your ear. You might not even be able to tell which one's faster. Like, it's so slight. But if you do that, right? 2 days, 2 beats, 2 days, 2 beats, 2 days, 2 beats. If you do that with discipline and you make sure that you're not playing staccato, you're holding each note down as long as you can hold it, and you're alternate picking, anybody out there that's watching can get into Yngwie land in less than a year. If that is your goal and you focus on it and you switch up between exercises, scales, arpeggios, whatever, doing that exact same thing, 2 beats, every click, every time you turn it up. Don't turn it up between more than 2 days. Work on it many times a day. This exercise only takes 8 minutes or something to go from here to here. That's what you do. Just crank, 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 crank. It's like going to the gym. You did 11 pull-ups this week. Next week I'm shooting for 12. The next week I'm shooting for 13. Before you know it, you're going to be able to do 20, 25 pull-ups, and it might seem like you could never do it. It's the exact same concept. It's just muscles and bone, same thing. You do that, they're going to sync together. I hope that's helpful. Let's see what else jumped in. Chris Schaefer, do I have a favorite beer? I do have a favorite beer. I was just talking about this to someone the other day. I'm going to go with 2, right? If I could choose one, and that means like if Annie and my wife and I are going out and we're just we could have one beer, it would be Le Fin du Monde by Unibrew. It's a Canadian brewing company who actually just did a beer for Dave Mustaine from Megadeth. But that is my favorite beer. It's a Belgian style. It's I want to say it's a 9%er. That is a hell of a beer. It's not the easiest to find around here, but that is great. You can only have 1 or 2 because, like I said, it's like a 9%er. It's that big Belgian type thing, but they are a great brewery and they do a fantastic job. But when I go out to a bar, if I'm gigging and I want to have a beer, generally Guinness is my go-to because it's not that strong. It's easy to drink. It's not a big IPA. It's easy to maintain, right? Yeah, I love Guinness, but if I could choose one, my favorite beer in the whole world is Le Fin du Monde. That's an incredible beer. Try it. All right, Marcus, glad that was helpful. All right, Jason asks, do you have any advice to be better at chicken picking? Yeah, I get this a lot, and I'm sure it's because you don't see many teachers on the internet that do a lot of chicken picking. Um, Let me put this down a little bit here. So the thing with chicken picking is, it's hybrid picking, right? So you got the pick and you got the fingers. Now, the pick, you hold it and you play it the same way you did without any of the fingers, right? I mean, I play through stuff all the time and I don't use the fingers because it's mostly either one of a few things. One, big 5 string strums, right? I'm literally strumming. Right? And I want that pick, stroke, I want that attack, right? Or if I'm doing, flat picking style stuff, right? And you want that sound. When I use hybrid picking, when I use chicken picking, if you would, because I know maybe that those aren't interchangeable, but that's how I think of it. I do it to achieve more than one note at one time, but not when I am trying to play chords. So it's triad play. It is all triad based. So for example, if I'm playing an A major, typically you play it like this, right? But I like to play it thumb on the root, and then with these 3 fingers, grab the root, 3rd, and 5th of the chord. So it's root, triad. So the best way to start incorporating these fingers, right, is to let your thumb, your pick, right, focus on the root of the chords and let these 3 fingers grab a triad. Triad is 3 notes. It's the root, 3rd, and 5th, whether it's major or minor or diminished or whatever. It's 3 notes. You have 3 other fingers. And so start subdividing your root and an upper triad. I'll give you some more examples just to show you. If my root is on the 2nd string, there's a D. And I'm playing, say, D minor, right? Normally I'd strum it like this. Pick down on your D, and then squeeze in, up, on your middle 3 strings or high 3 strings, whether you want a middle or higher sound, to get that triad. You get that. For a major chord, like if I go down to C, right, C, you have your regular bar chord shape. I like to do it with the pinky. Just again, pick the root, and then with these 3, get the triad. And that's a great place to start. I wouldn't start trying to hybrid pick by doing all the fancy, crazy stuff up here, because basically all that stuff is when it's like pedal steel bends and you're trying to have one note ring, one other note is doing something else, right? But I think that where hybrid picking, chicken picking in general, really, really shines is it separates your bass sound from your mids and treble sounds. It really allows you to focus on your triads and separate your bass lines, your bass movements. I mean, that's the one thing that I noticed, that once you start getting into this style of picking, that it's very hard to go back to just strumming everything. It really doesn't work well to just go back and start strumming everything. You just find it too big and too clunky. So take some songs that you like, and if you were doing, say, like a 1-4-5 in A, like. strum, try separating those sounds with your root and then the upper part, right? Cool. All right, I just saw something pop up here, which I want to go back and grab. Give me a second, guys. Let's see. I got a bunch of stuff from YouTube. Just deal with me for a second here. All right, I got one question. Oh my gosh. So, I don't know your name. It says TheC35. You're asking if I purchased stuff from Sweetwater. You just bought a McCarty, and it looks like they sent you a used one? Get out of here, dude. Really? Well, obviously you have to call them and take pictures or whatever. But no, I don't buy from Sweetwater. Not because I've had a negative problem with Sweetwater. It's really just because, I work with PRS here, and then when I get non-PRS gear, I get or even PRS gear that, that they don't give to me. I work with my buddy Ryan Fowler from Ryan Fowler's Guitar Experience, who's a sponsor of the GuitarGate site, because he gives everybody on the site, a great deal. So I don't. But if you think they sent you something used, that's just insane. I mean, that's just truly insane. I've never heard of anything like that. I find that hard to believe, truthfully. Sweetwater has a great reputation. All right, so Martin asks, do you think practicing in a standing position instead of sitting for 1 to 3 hours will get stronger? That's an interesting question. I've never really thought of it like that. My gut feeling is no. Because I think that when you're sitting, you're not feeling the weight of the guitar. And so you're really working on just these. And when you're standing, you're really feeling the weight of the guitar. And you're going to wear out. You're going to get tired more. So if you're asking whether you can build more endurance by practicing standing, I would say yes, but I also would say that there's no real point to it, because why would you want to get tired when you're practicing up here? Because what you really want to do when you're practicing is get tired in here. You want to feel the burn in these fingers and your wrists and stuff, just like you do when you go to the gym. That's how I look at practicing. Like, I always know when I had a good practice session when, like, my digits and stuff are tired. And I never get to that point when I'm standing, because you'd have to do that for hours. You say stand for 1 to 3 hours in practice, and if you can do that, God bless you. That just seems like a very tall order to me. Then again, to each his own. To each his own. All right, Facebook, I'll get right back to you. I'm going to come just check out YouTube again real quick. Thank you so much, Austin. I appreciate that. I'm trying to make a move on YouTube. It's hard out there, man. It's not easy. Let's see. All right, that's pretty much it. Now, Joey asks, 5 years into playing, I've noticed a huge pattern with the number 5 and the guitar. Pentatonic, caged, etc. Thoughts? Well, this is kind of a philosophical question here. So basically what you're asking is, does the number 5 have some extra level of significance on the guitar? No, I don't think so. I think it's a musical thing. So you have the circle of fifths, right? Where everything, when you go up to the fifth, becomes a perfect interval to the next key, right? The pentatonic scale is not significant to the guitar. It's in every instrument. And what that really is your major scale, which is 7 notes with the half steps removed. The reason the half steps are removed and that people decided to give this scale its own name is because it's very lyrical. When you remove the half steps, you remove the points of conflict, which arise fundamentally with those half steps. The most obvious one that comes to mind is, you know, when you have a half, when you have the fourth, that is going to clash directly because it's a half step higher than your major third. So anytime someone is soloing in a major key, you hear someone hang on, it totally negates the third. For you guys that watched this YouTube video that I just made yesterday, where the major third always wins, one thing I mentioned in there is that not only does the major third always win over the minor third, but a higher note almost always holds a little more significant value than a lower note. It's just kind of the way it is, which is why when you play a fourth over a major chord, it becomes suspended. You're suspending the third because the fourth wins, right? It just overtakes it. So pentatonic scales kind of came about, and people started referring to them as their own entity because it gives you that same sound, that same melodic, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6 thing that's in so many melodies, but it removes those half steps, the 4 and the 7. So no, I don't think there's some deeper philosophical thing on the guitar. I think the caged thing is random, and a lot of people really don't like. I think caged is the way to start teaching people from the beginning. Obviously, everybody grows out of it, but I think it's the best way to start as a teacher. I believe that wholeheartedly on this instrument. But there are many instructors that teach 7, or don't even believe in shapes in general. So I don't think, I don't think that. But I do appreciate you trying to go deep on me here. All right, what else we got here? What picks do I use? So, I use these Tortex Dunlop 88, 0.88 millimeter picks. These green ones. To be honest with you, I have not experimented with a lot of different picks. I know I don't like really soft ones, and I know I don't like ones made of steel. I do prefer them on the heavier side because I do like to be able to move the string, with my pick when I need to, because I can hold the pick loose enough to flutter across. So I don't like really light picks because I can control that in my hand. I can control the looseness of the flutter in my hand without dropping the pick. But really light picks, if you squeeze them really hard and you really try to dig and move the string, the pick moves, not the string. The pick flexes instead of the string. On the other side of the coin, if you literally use steel picks, or that are really rock hard and rigid, it can be just too sharp, even to the point of breaking strings. I've never liked those. But at the same time, it's not like I've experimented with a bunch of picks. If anybody out there is watching makes picks, send me some. I'll try them. I'll make a video. All right, Ross. So nothing on the Malmsteen scales and legato exercises. Oh, I guess I must have missed something in there. Let me look down. Do you have any scale patterns in the style of Yngwie I could practice and legato patterns to build a smoother style as well? All right. So I'm going to be totally frank with this. This is not at all my forte. You guys watch my stuff. I'm more of a country blues-ish type player, and you don't really see me doing much Yngwie style shred. But I do plenty of legato stuff. And when I think Yngwie, the first thing, if I had to start with anywhere on Yngwie, it would be harmonic minor. Yeah, I know that's not like his sound that he invented and blah, 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 blah. But when you think of that classical minor sound, but with that major seventh, you think of that. It just, to me, that just sounds like Yngwie, right? it would be harmonic minor. And again, you can just think of harmonic minor as minor, but instead of a flat 7, you have a major 7. So basically, anytime you get to your root, you have your half step below the root, that's your major 7. As far as practicing legato, it is literally the exact same advice I would give you as I just gave as far as building speed exercises. It is literally the same. Start slow and hold finger pressure as long as possible. So make the note duration be as long as possible. Yes, again, of course, I know you can choose to play staccato, but when you're trying to work on legato strength, you want to start at the maximum note duration, right? You want to make sure that at speed, you're not flubbing any notes. And then it's extremely easy to just shorten that note duration and stay on tempo when you can do this. When you can do this, it's very easy to do this. It's very hard to do this if you're just clipping along, just getting these little chunks. That's what sloppy guitar playing is at speed. It's just, you can only get this, but you're shooting for that. That's basically what happens. So when you're working on legato, take a scale, right? Let's say we're, let's do something more symmetrical then. Start on just 3 notes. 3 note per string, 3 fingers, right? And you want to use the same finger. Now, obviously, when you do more exercises, try more scales, try different fingerings. But when you're starting, I like to start, when I work on my legato stuff, I like to try to stay symmetrical in the beginning. In other words, I'm working on 1, 2, 4 right now. Then I'm working on 1, 3, 4. Then I might try working on just 2, 3, 4 if I get aggressive, or even just 1, 4. It's a systematic approach to building digit strength as opposed to always running scales. I like to find a balance between exercises and scales to make sure that I'm not favoring one sound over another instead of building this pinky is as strong as this ring finger is as strong as this middle finger. So if I'm doing all 1, 2, 4s, right? If I used to start with a G major, right? I would have, right? Right? Again, I'm not stopping on that root. I'm completing the pattern, so I'm getting 1, 2, 4, right? So start slow. And you'll hear right away at that slow speed, you'll hear the stuff you need to work on. You'll be able to tell that hammering on, right? It's not that hard, right, to hammer on with 1 pick down and get all 3, all equal length. It's been a while for me. But going backwards, it's the opposite. It's much harder. And the reason for that is that when you're going up, you don't have to have all your fingers down already. They can be floating. But when you're going down, you're pulling off. So when you pull off to something, that something already has to be there. So you gotta, right? That's the tricky part. So you want to do it slow, right? So you feel that burn. Just simple exercises like that. You don't have to run all of it, right? And then bump it up 1 beat, bump it up 2 beats, right? Every other day. Alternate with exercises and scales. And that's the trick, right? It's being realistic with the fact that going backwards is harder than forwards, because you have to have that other finger down. You have to have that pressure already down to pull off to something, right? And then just working it out slow. Trying to let the note ring out for as long as possible. Try to only pick once per string. Alternate pick when you switch strings, right? Start at 60, go to 62, go to 64. It's the same old thing. Anytime you're trying to build strength and dexterity and speed, doesn't matter whether it's legato stuff, whether it's picking stuff, it doesn't matter. When you're trying to connect these two hands, the key takeaway is that start slow, do it often. Like brutal repetition, and when you make the bumps up, make them small increments that are barely audible by ear. And then when you're actually playing, try to play it for the longest duration that you can, the longest note duration. That's the formula. That's it. I mean, it's been a long time since I've done stuff. Yeah, I'm obviously not a shredder, but that's how you do it. If I wanted to be, like if someone called me and said, hey, you want this shredding gig? I'd be like, all right, how many months away is it? And they'd be like, okay, I don't know. 6? That means 6 months you have a deal. You know, because in 6 months I can say, okay, if I need to get up to warp speed, you know, with all my crazy Ingve scales, 6 months is reasonable, because then I could break it backwards, you know, break it down and say, okay, I'm going to start at this beat per minute, this exercise, this scale, in addition to everything else I'm working on. You know, and these particular songs need to be at this mark. And I have, call it 5 months, because I want to be good at it for another month. 5 months to get to that mark. And I just work backwards. And every time I bump up, small, tiny increments, small, tiny increments, small, tiny increments. I'm telling you, all you guys can get to blistering speed in whatever style you want to if you just do it just like that. It's a systematic approach. It is no different than, again, you know, trying to get good at running or getting big at the gym or anything involving your muscles and your bones. It is exactly the same. That it is strictly a strength, dexterity, making the hands work together formula. It's lots of repetition, small increments for a long period, you know, for a long-term progression. That's how it works. Thanks. Glad that was helpful, Ross. Oh, Chewy. I'm assuming that's how you say your name. Thanks for jumping in here. Opinions on current rock and metal industry. Cheers. Oh my God, dude. I don't even know what to say about that. Honestly, I say there's kind of, and again, this is my opinion. You know, I don't know. I'm not in the industry. You know, I'm in the teaching industry, really. But from what I see, like when I think of rock, I see that stuff in country music. I see that coming out of Nashville. I feel like all the new stuff, like whether it's Jason Aldean or whatever you want to call it, that's like what rock used to be. Now it's just like with the cowboy hat on and they're talking about country stuff, right? I don't hear much rock on rock labels, rock radio stations, at the awards, in the rock genre on iTunes. That isn't what I think of like rock. You know, like when I think of rock, you know, I'm thinking AC/DC, I'm thinking Guns N' Roses, you know, I'm thinking, you know, Aerosmith. I'm thinking like that's the rock and roll that I grew up with, that I know. That's what that word means to me. You know, not overly distorted guitars, you know, strong melodies, you know, straightforward drum beats, you know, drum and bass, you know, solid, you know, tight grooving grooves, big stadium anthems, stuff like that. I hear that coming out of Nashville these days. I don't hear that coming out of rock labels, rock stuff, whatever. But then on the other side, on like the metal side, I feel like it kind of like skips, and now it's just like, I don't know the word, like you know, gent. You know, I feel like it like jumps straight over into almost like otherworldly technicality, like just like whether it's like all like the drums, the guitar, and like the double kick, the bass, like all just going a million miles an hour with like just machine gun stuff. Like it incredibly impressive, like unbelievably impressive. But I also wouldn't really put that in the category of metal, which I'm kind of fell in love with, which is like your Pantera, uh, even Slayer-esque stuff that was much more, especially the Pantera stuff was just very much more just groove oriented. Even though they were, especially Dimebag was incredibly technical. The technicality wasn't like as much of the emphasis of the song, I don't think. Where like a lot of the metal stuff I hear now, which I like, it just seems like the emphasis very much is on how incredible players everybody is. And I'm not hearing very many songs that I like. And I know that that might be kind of harsh. And again, what other people like and what other people are into is totally up to them. I mean, I'm not judging any of that stuff. I just, in my own personal opinion, is that the metal songs that I grew up loving, and listening to, like Hangar 18 or Holy Wars by Megadeth. That's the stuff I think of, and like I really liked those songs, even though again, it's not like there was any lacking in musicianship from a lot of those bands, but I feel like a lot of the current stuff now that students send me or that I see on TV or hear on the radio, it's almost like the precision, like the just the overall technical prowess. Like it is absolutely unbelievable that a human being can play a lot of this stuff. Like it seems like a computer has to do it. I feel like that is the sound that people are going for now. And God bless everybody if that's what they want. I don't hear many songs in there that I drive in my car and hum in my head and remember and just can't get out of my head when I'm laying down in bed. That's just what that is my take. You asked me, and that's what I told you. And as far as just the rock industry right now, like I said, I really don't know what that is. I hear that stuff coming out of Nashville. I don't hear the word rock to me. What I think of, I don't really hear many bands expressing that. Reflecting that. And it's also kind of like what I hear in country music. When I hear the word country, right? There aren't many people that I think of that are playing what I think of as country, because when you turn on country radio or again award shows, look on the Country Channel on iTunes, it is this pop version of country themed stuff, but it's not country music. Now, you got people like Sturgill Simpson. That's country music, and that's new. You got like Chris Stapleton. He's playing country music, and that's new. But it's just like the rock scene. It's like those words, like country and rock. I think they just mean different things to different people now. Like it's just different. Like when I think country, I hear pop country. When I think of what's on the rock station, I think of, I don't know. It's just not what I think of rock and roll. And when I think of metal, right, what I'm hearing is really like stuff that sounds like only not a human being can play. It's just so incredibly technically precise and proficient. It's just like unbelievable that human beings can reach that level of whatever. And maybe a lot of them are doing with computers. I don't even know. But that is my 2 cents on that. I really don't want to pass judgment on how anybody else likes to play and what they like to listen to. There you go. I don't think I could say it any differently. Bob, sorry, okay, you jumped off here. I had to leave for a minute, so you may have covered it. Is there an easy way to remember the rules for blending major and minor pentatonic scales? Yes, yes. Here's the deal. When you blend major and minor pentatonic scales, what you're really trying to do is hit tones, hit notes that match the chord that you're under, right, that you're playing over. For most of your improvising scenarios, you're going to run into a 5 chord. When you run into a 5 chord, if you play your major pentatonic, you're going to sound like the 5 chord because you're going to have a 2 in there. That's pretty much the deal. So you're asking for a simple way. That's about as simple as a takeaway as I can give you. So let's say, for example, you're in A. Let me clear my loop pedal here. And I play a little something, a little 1-4-5, right? Let's see what I got here. So if I'm playing minor over this blues, A minor, A minor, A minor, right? Here's your 5 chord. It's got to resolve, right? 1. So again, minor. Didn't do anything, right? Didn't say anything about that 5 chord. Works over 1 and 4 all day, right? Now check this out. You hear that? You hear it says something about the 5 chord? That's all you're looking for when you switch between major and minor pentatonic. If there's one simple takeaway, is that you're hunting for that 2. You're hunting for that 9. It's the same as the 2 over the 5 chord. That's it. That's the number one focus. Check it out. Right? So it cleans it all up. That's textbook mixing major and minor. Try it in one position, right? Right? That's it. That's about as simple as a takeaway I can give you. Just, if you're mixing major and minor pentatonics, what you don't want to do, or any pentatonics, right, is run the whole pentatonic scale over every switch, right? It's like, okay, minor over the 1, so minor over the 4, major over the 5, right? That's not what you want to do. The reason you switch is to sell whatever chord you're switching to with a chord tone that is not in the scale you came from, with a chord tone that is different, that is new. You're introducing something new when that chord comes up. That's the thinking process, right? And if there's one that the major pentatonic gives you that, is the reason it switches for the 5 chord, it's that 2nd degree, or that 9. That's what you do. Light bulb. Awesome. Great. Cool. All right, guys. Well, it has been about an hour. So I'm going to jump off here. I really, really appreciate you guys for tuning in. I appreciate all of the support. Again, I just cannot thank you enough. The fact that I get to teach thousands of you from all over the world, literally every continent except Antarctica. I have someone on Guitar Geek, which is unbelievable to me. It just really means the entire world to me, and I cannot thank you enough. I wish each and every one of you the very happiest of New Year's, and if there's any way I can help any of you guys reach your guitar playing goals, that's what I'm here to do. That's what I'm chosen to do with my life. I'm super excited about it. Shoot me an email, support@guitargeek.com. Drop me a line on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, whatever. You guys know I respond to basically everything that I see. Again, I just can't thank you guys enough. And for all you Guitar Gate subscribers out there, 10 p.m. tonight, we're going to be working on 6/8 rhythms. So for all you guys that want to throw a ballad or two in the middle of your 4/4 set, which I strongly encourage, tune in tonight and we'll go over how to feel in 6. So Happy New Year, guys. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time.